All right, guys, welcome to another special episode of the Strength Coach Podcast. I'm here with Vince Gabriel, founder of Gabriel Fitness Performance and the Fitness Business University. We do a special episode every month, just kind of talking about business concepts, business secrets for gym owners. So, first of all, Vince, thanks for doing this, bud.
My pleasure. You don't sound very excited to do this today, so hopefully
No,
the
I
content,
am. We went
hopefully,
over.
hopefully the content gets you a little upbeat and a
I think
little
I'm a
more
little
pep in your step.
disappointed. I'm a little disappointed that I wasn't able to go to Florida
Yeah,
for
we missed
I
you.
am I really am seriously because I checked the flights. They were out of control. It's like middle of March. Nice job on that picking Orlando.
July 19th and 20th in Berkeley, beautiful Berkeley Heights, New
Oh,
Jersey.
nice. That's an easy. Nobody's going there. So the
Yeah,
plane is fine. Um,
yeah,
but you did your mastermind was Think and Grow Rich. And I told you last episode, I've really been on since December. I watched some more stuff. And I got back into Bob Proctor, who was a big
yeah,
Napoleon Hill guy,
yeah.
and a little bit of Earl Nightingale. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that. Earl Nightingale was the one who really talked about we become what we think about most of the
Oh
time.
my
So
God.
I really wanted to kind of to get into that because I know I thought it was kind of a cool idea to have that think and grow rich theme. So you got to give us an overview of like just give me what did you guys do? Like, how did you connect Think and Grow Rich to you know owning a gym?
Yeah, it's so interesting how like everything that's taught today, there's always an origin of everything, right? And the
Yeah.
origin of, well, honestly, the origin of most things is the Bible, right? If you really think about it,
Mhm.
like, but the Think and Grow Rich was kind of the origin of the personal development or a success philosophy. So most of the things that are taught today are really formulated and put in a different wrapper on what Napoleon Hill did because he lived in a time. It's like if you think about who was alive during those times, it's absolutely incredible that these people were all alive at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Henry Ford, John Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, like Teddy Roosevelt, like all these people were alive at the same time, and so this guy went around and talked to all these people, right? Now it's funny and interesting how sometimes you can learn this stuff and learn a success philosophy and know the information, but a lot of people know a lot of this information and still aren't successful, right? And so really what we wanted to do is make it about action. Like how do you actually action this into your life as a business owner, as a family man, as because it's really not just about business and money. Honestly, it's really just about living a better life. Like if you really think about it. So that was really the plan is like, yeah, the book is great, but if you know a bunch of stuff about success, but you can't apply it to your life, it's completely useless. So that was really what we tried to do is link it to, all right, this is a cool thing that was taught that he learned. All right, now how can we implement this into our business and our life to make everything better? So
Yeah, and I
that's kind
think
of what.
coming from you guys as well, it becomes this thing like, hey guys, we're doing the gym thing too. We have our gyms, and we're going to take these principles and show you because I think when you read something like that, or there's so much self-help stuff out there, right? But then you love the message, and then you get to that person's kind of plan of action, right? I'm not going to mention any names right now, but that I've kind of listened to a lot or whatever. And it's kind of like it doesn't really I it's not something I feel like I want to do or doesn't fit into the plan where you guys are kind of making it a part of, hey, this is how we're doing it as gym owners. Here you go, guys. Here's the plan. Let's try this.
And
So
and
what did you guys do?
well, I just want to make this one point.
Yeah.
It's so my book comes out next month for this, the Ultimate Guide to Small Group Personal Training, which I'm super excited about. So we'll talk about it next month because
Hmm.
I'll be mid in a launch. Um, and I've had the really cool opportunity to really go back to my gym when it first started and think about like how we launched small group and how we got it rolling and then what we've done for the last 15 years. And I think a lot of, my early success as a coach was about what I did at my gym. right? I had success at my gym, right? And then I taught that stuff to other people. But
Mhm.
now, like as I fast forward and as I do this, I've been doing now 8 years running a mastermind and coaching 100+ people in the mastermind. Now there's like success stories from people that have taken this. So it's not like I'm not just resting my laurels on my own gym anymore.
Yeah.
There's a room full of people that are taking this stuff, applying it into their own business and having success. So, um, but one of the things that we teach a lot, and I don't talk a lot about externally, I don't talk a lot about it on my podcast. I don't talk a lot about here, but I'll brush on into it a little bit. And the reality is the Tony Robbins has a quote, and I'm blanking on the exact quote. It'll come to me in 2 seconds as I talk through this. The number one chokehold on a business is the psychology of the owner, right? And mechanics and sales and marketing and operations is all great, but if that is the only thing that you focus on, and you don't focus on the challenges that you're having in your own mind around what decisions you need to make, around what you need to do, it's really hard. And so one of the things we talk about a lot in the mastermind is mindset, right? And managing your mindset and managing your own confidence. And one of that, and this is a kind of a weird, touchy subject to talk about here, but is the voices in your head.
Sure.
And it's like no one wants to touch this,
Yeah.
right? No one wants to touch this. And the scariest thing ever is they are actually coming out with things that can start to read your thoughts. That's scary, right? Really scary. So if you, and I don't want any part of that, right? Yeah. Um, but if you think about it, it's like your thoughts determine your emotions, right? How you feel, right? And how you feel determines your actions,
Sure.
right? It kind of goes in that thing. So your thoughts are really, really important. And I think a lot of people don't know about them. And me being a crazy psycho person myself, I've done a lot of studying and a lot of learning and reading. And one of the most insightful things I ever learned was putting a name or a description around the different voices in your head, because it's not just one voice, right? And the first thing you
Yeah.
understand is the voices in your head are not you. The thoughts that you have, the random thoughts that bubble up and pop up, they're not you. And if all of a sudden you think they're you, you're gonna have a problem. And so I started the mastermind with this skit. And again, I had to give credit where credit is due. One of my favorite business books that no one has ever read and no one ever reads it, but I don't know why, is called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Getting Your Shit Together by John Carlton. It's an absolute phenomenal book. I mean, John's like so successful, he doesn't even care if anyone reads it or not, I don't think. Right. But it's a really, really, really good book. And in the book, he talks about these 4 different voices in your head. And so I started the meeting talking about these 4 different voices. Okay, so here's the first voice, Ann. The first voice is your inner perfectionist bastard. Okay, now I probably don't even need to describe this, right? But the voice in your head that is your inner perfectionist, the one that needs everything to be perfect, the one that needs everything to be right all the time, the one that needs to know all the time, there's that voice. Okay, then there's your inner brat, right? The child, the voice of a child, right? You didn't adapt from your childhood. You still have that voice coming on, right?
Mhm.
Then you have your inner wimp, the one that's freaking scared of everything all the time, right? Oh, don't know, I can't do it. I don't know, I can't open
Yeah.
another gym. Oh my God, no, we're going to die. It's all going to go out, right? There's that voice, right? And then there's the inner caveman, the one that can't delay any gratification or anything like that, and just wants it now, and like, I gotta get it. We want a mansion and all that, whatever, right? And so you have these 4 different voices, and Carlton does an unbelievable job of explaining these different voices in your head. And he talks about these; they're gonna be there, right? I don't know if there's a way to make them go away, but what you do
Yeah.
got to understand is you got to learn how to manage the voice, manage it. You have to manage the narrative in your mind and understand that you are not a child anymore, right?
Yeah.
And you're probably not a caveman, and you're not a wimp. As much as you tell yourself you're a wimp all the time, you're not a wimp. And so he has this analogy where you almost got to like imagine they're in your head and they're bouncing around in your head and there's this broom closet. He calls it a broom closet. And he's
No
like, when
way.
they're getting really loud, what you do is you shuffle the voices over and you actually imagine them as people, right? Like different people. And I actually have drawn my own characters. So I literally had an artist sketch my inner
No
perfected facet.
way.
Yeah, yeah, I'll show it to you at one point. Right, it's amazing, right? And what he talks about, he's like, I feel like we could spend the whole podcast on this, right? But what he talks about is, when they're getting loud, and what you do is you shuffle, you usher them over to the broom closet, and then you close the door, and you're like, okay, now he calls it being the adult in the room. I'm the adult in the room. I'm the one that's left. Those voices are there, but they're kind of muffled. They're in the broom closet and they're like trying to get out, right? So that's how we started it. And what I linked to after that, I described these voices, and what I linked to in my opener was talking about turbulence because a lot of us flew there because we were in Orlando, right? And I asked them who had turbulence on the way there, and almost everybody raised their hand. And I was like, well, who's been on a plane that's had turbulence before where they've been a little bit scared? Every hand went up. Who's been on a plane where they had turbulence where they're like, this fucker's going down? And they start breathing in the bag and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Right? All the hands go up, right? Same here, right? So let me tell you, there is a one, based on statistics that I looked up, there is a 1 in 11 million chance. So you have to go on 11 million flights to get into a plane crash, right? This is even eerier. If you live to 100, you have 36,500 days on Earth. I couldn't believe it. I kept
Yeah.
doing the calculation. Like, is this right? Is this right? Is this possible? I did 365 days times 100 is 36,500. I was like, that's it? That's all we got? If you take 11 million, right?
Yeah.
11 million,
Yep.
you divide that by 336,500, which is the amount of days you live at 100, you would have to live 301 lifetimes to 100 to potentially get into a plane crash. Those are the statistics.
That's crazy.
But there's a bump in the air and we freak out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with the voices. I think the voices are turbulence. We hear this voice and there's this inner brat and there's this inner wimp, and it's just like, and all of a sudden we start like, and what do you do when there's turbulence? What is the healthy thing to do? The only
Scream.
thing you, the only thing you can do, because you have no control,
Yeah.
and the only thing you can do is relax
Yeah.
and breathe.
This is so crazy. I took a plane ride from California to Mexico. I was going to my old boss's future golf course. And it was four of us on the plane. And man, it was a small plane. So there's two pilots, right? And we're going up and down. I'm like, holy, sign of the cross. Oh my God. Right. These three guys are reading Sports Illustrated. And all of a sudden I thought, this is ridiculous. These guys don't care. Relax. We landed in this tomato field. Anyway. So it's kind of similar when you started mentioning the inner, people in your brain. It's almost like it's cliche about like alcoholism or a problem. Once you realize you have the problem, right? Once you realize about and you can identify these. So I kind of thought, hey, look, this is okay. Like you said, the only thing you can do is relax. Then you can do, you're in the seat, boom. I couldn't do anything. I kind of probably had that realization, but understanding it's funny as you were going through these names, kind of there really is this kind of nice realization about, wait a minute, here's the people in my brain. Okay, it's okay. We all got them. And now that you know, but you can control, right? How is that what you guys went into next? Like, was anybody asking Vince, how am I going to control it? I can't help it. I feel like I'm not good enough, or whatever. What was next with this identity after the identifying?
Well, here's who doesn't freak out when there's turbulence. The pilot.
Yeah.
The pilot doesn't freak out.
Yeah.
Because one, the pilot knows this, because that pilot's been on a shit ton of flights, right? But also, what can the pilot do if there is turbulence? The pilot can take the plane and drive it somewhere else in the sky where there's not turbulence. You can't do that. You can't say, "Hey, pilot, can you move this plane a little bit?" Like, you can't. The only thing you have to do is let go. That is the only thing that you can do to be able to relieve the head trash of the turbulence, is to breathe through it and let go. But we started to talk about, after that, we got into, we talked about being rich. And we kind of defined it. And I think a lot of people have turbulence in their head about being rich and what it really even means. And Napoleon Hill talked about that, a lot of the people that he interviewed that were rich, the people that he did go and interview, the criteria was they had a lot of money. That was the only criteria. The criteria wasn't going around and finding the happiest people in the world to interview.
Yeah.
It was the richest people in the world.
Yeah.
And he did say, and I did a lot of research, and I was listening to like live recordings of him. He did say even a lot of the people that he interviewed did not have peace of mind or happiness. They had a lot of money, but they didn't have peace of mind or happiness. And he wrote a book later on in his life, very early. He died in 1970, and this book came out in 1967, and it's called "Grow Rich with Peace of Mind," because he realized that, yes, I am not saying you don't need money to have peace of mind. You need a certain level of wealth financially to have peace of mind. If you're trying to figure out how to pay your electric bill, you will not have peace of mind. So I'm not saying, oh, just relax and be happy, everything's going to be
Yeah.
fine. No, you have to
Yeah.
get to that point where Hill calls you have sufficient money, right? You have enough money to live the life that you want. You have enough money to know that if shit hits the fan, that you're able to get out of a situation. You have enough money, if someone comes to you and they need help, you can help them, right? So it's and how you define sufficient money is also really individualized. I don't want to get into it today, but I gave four different levels of sufficient money. But we talked about the concept of being rich, and it is more than money, right? It is more than money. Tell me the person that has a lot of money that doesn't have their health. What would that person pay to get their health back? Everything they've got.
Yep.
I believe everything they've got. I believe Steve Jobs, when he had pancreatic cancer, would have given every dime he had to try and keep living.
Sure.
Right. And so it's like, yes, I believe that money is important. I'm not saying that at all. But part of being rich is having your health. Part of being rich is having good relationships. Like, are you really rich if you come home and you're fighting with everyone in your house all the time? Like, are you rich? Like, you're not. Like, and so I think a lot of times people equate rich to accumulating a lot of wealth, and that actually is the technical definition. But what Hill talked is, we want to get rich, but we want to be able to have peace of mind. And he unpacked these criteria. That is three of them, right? Health, sufficient money, your good relationships. Another one is freedom from fear. If you're freaking afraid of everything all the time, like, are you really rich? You're not rich or poor because you're afraid of everything all the time. That's not a life anyone wants to live, right? And so a lot of it was, this whole Think and Grow Rich philosophy is like, oh, it's all about money, 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 and it is, right? It is. But what I learned in digging deep into the research is that, hey, let's get rich and have peace of mind, and do the things that we need to do to get there. So that was like kind of how I linked it all. That's how I opened the mastermind with those. I know, it's like, whoa.
It's heavy. What? Who did the skit? I mean, did you have four characters or?
Yeah, so I did the skit. I did like a almost like this mock thing where I was just talking, and then I had four guys that I gave the microphone to, and they were actually like in the back, and they were talking into the microphone. So it was like almost like a Herman's head type situation.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I know how old you are, so I know you know Herman's
There you
head,
go.
right? But like it's like, and then they eventually came out onto the stage, with
Yeah.
me and stuff. So it was cool, and I've actually done it before, but I usually do it like once a year to remind everyone, because even myself, right, totally, there's so much I've studied and so much I've learned, but even me, I have to remind myself of, oh, the voice in my head that's telling me that I'm scared, that's not actually me. That's just a voice in my
Vince,
head
I
that
just lost you. Hold on. Hold on, Vince. You said you had to remind yourself. Hold on. Wow, come on. Vinny, hold
good.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could say, yeah, you're good. Even me, I had
Yeah.
to remind myself.
So even me, like, I've studied this stuff so much. I prepare to teach it all the time, but even me, I have to continue to remind myself that, that voice in my head that tells me I'm a wimp, is not me. It's not me. It's just that voice in my head, and it manifested from somewhere. Call it stuff I've stored over the years. I don't know. That's getting into way deeper than we want to go today, of where it comes from, which is a whole nother conversation, right? Are we good?
Yeah.
I thought we were frozen again. So yeah, then we went into the riches, and then after that, I got into business stuff.
Well, let me just kind of step back. These four people in the brain.
You like this, don't you?
Well,
I
I,
can
I
tell.
really do. I really do because I think again, like we all have them, and there is a lot of talk about this type of stuff, like all the fuck books, right? Like, wake the fuck up, or you go in the library. There's 42 books with the word fuck on the title now, right? And so the inner perfectionist bastard, the inner brat, the inner wimp, the inner caveman. How just briefly, how are they? Why are they a problem for gym owners?
So the first one is, the inner whip is a problem for gym owners because you cannot grow a business without being uncomfortable. You're not going to open a second location. You're not going to make your first hire. You're not going to do the hard things, right? Because it's hard. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't know. Like, when I entered the world of gym ownership, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't know anything about marketing, right? And so if your inner wimp is constantly, well, we can't do that. Well, we no, we can't hire anybody. We'll have payroll. We can't have payroll. That's more expenses, right? And so it's like this wimp that is like constantly holding you back. The perfectionist also holds you back because it needs everything to be perfect before it goes. Now, there possibly is some benefits to that, of having, being proud of your work and doing good work, right? There is some benefits to that. But if you get paralysis by analysis, and you take 6 hours to write an email because it's not perfect, and you end up not even sending it because it's not perfect, like, that is not healthy,
Yeah.
either. And then the caveman is just like, not a good thing, because the caveman doesn't actually look at risk, whereas the inner perfectionist looks at risk too much, and the wimp looks at risk too much. The caveman doesn't give a shit about risk, and doesn't even ask the right questions. Doesn't probably go out and get someone with a big inner caveman doesn't even join my mastermind. They think they can do it
Interesting.
all by themselves, right? I got this. Well, what do I need that for? I don't need that. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And those are the people that are almost like they self destruct, because that inner caveman is just so loud. They think they're invincible. So does
So
that
so
help?
there's an I want sorry, I want to keep on this for a
No, it's all
minute.
good.
So
It's all
because this
good.
is good, I even wrote down John Carlton book, Entrepreneur Guide to Getting Your
Dude,
Shit
it's
Together.
an amazing book. There's two
Um,
versions of it, volume one and volume two. Get both. If you order them,
wow.
get both.
Okay.
He's absolutely amazing.
The so you just kind of brought up a point without telling us earlier. A lot of times one is stronger than the other. Is that part of your process? Well, let's call it the healing process, is like
I
recognizing which ones are bigger and stronger and taking over.
I think everyone's got one that's the loudest, right? That's my kind of personal opinion, is
Okay.
that we got them all, but there's some people that don't have a loud inner wimp, and there's some people that don't have a loud inner caveman. My theory on it, and this is just my theory is everyone's got one of those voices that's the loudest in the room. And that's your growth
Cool.
area, right? That's your area for growth. So for me, it's the inner perfectionist bastard, right? It is the complete loudest one in my head. I don't have a
Yep.
really loud inner caveman. I got a really loud inner perfectionist bastard, and that's something I personally have to work on and manage.
Yeah. So, all right, we this is Think and Grow Rich, but it should have been the Entrepreneur Guide to Shitting It Together, getting your shit together. No, but so connect more now, because if we think of Think and Grow Rich, right, and we start to kind of put this all together. And I mentioned that Earl Nightingale, we become what we think about most of the time. That's totally connected to the voices, right?
Totally.
To in our head, which is awesome. Can you connect for people that have kind of read Think and Grow Rich, or even give a quick overview of the points that you wanted to highlight as well from Think and Grow Rich for your gym owners for the rest of this seminar?
Yeah. Honestly, I got into there's 16 or 17 principles in the book, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I didn't want to like make the whole seminar about me going over all 17 principles. What I
Yeah.
went through was I picked the five that I thought would help them move the fastest, because a lot of times people just move too slow and they need a little bit of a kick in the pants. And that's what a mastermind, I think, is really good for. I think there's a lot of people that are in my mastermind that could accomplish what they want to accomplish on their own by themselves. But what we do is we help them get it done faster. So I link the success principles that Hill talks about with speed. What can help you move faster and get to where you want to go faster? Okay. Um, Being honest, one of the first ones I talked about was the mastermind principle, right? Because that is an actual,
Oh,
that's one of his founding principles is the mastermind. That's where a mastermind actually came from, was this book, right? And I showed when I introduced the this concept, there was a picture of Henry Ford, um, Thomas Edison, and Harvey Firestone, black and white picture of them like sitting, the three old men sitting in a rocking chair talking. And that was a mastermind way back in the day. Like, can you imagine? Like, and then I showed Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are very, very good friends. And there, I showed a picture of Bill Gates and Buffett sitting together on a plane. Like, what would you pay to listen to that conversation? It's just like unbelievable, right? And so the point of a mastermind is you equate it to like it's a battery, and when you put two batteries together, more you'll get more power from a single battery. If you put four batteries together, you'll get more power than two batteries. And that was the whole description of the philosophy, is that when you put minds together, there will be more ideas, there will be more power that's generated from that, right? And so what I urged them to do, I think a lot of them were in the mastermind, but a lot of them weren't using it the right way. And what I pushed them to do was, hey, make the calls to the other people in this group. Like, go create relationships. I mean, one of my really good, I mean, you and I technically met not at a mastermind, right? But we met at a seminar way back in the day, right? And we've
yep.
been friends ever since.
Yeah.
And I think that I really value our friendship, and I think that we both have benefited from it tremendously,
Sure.
right?
And you
But that
reached out.
started,
You initiated that before we went, because you knew I was going to be there. You said,
well,
"Hey, we need to."
you were famous, so
I
I
was
wanted to
saying,
hang around
so,
with I want to
you
hang
said, "Hey,
around
let's
famous
get
people.
together." Right? Let's get together. So we both lived in like an hour from each other, but we had a meet in California. You
Right,
know?
right, right.
So right, so I
So
think
that's
you did initiate that.
yeah, yeah, and so that's one of them, is to use the mastermind to its fullest. I also talked about there's different types of masterminds. Like, you have a mastermind with your spouse, right? That's like a really, really important relationship. That's a mastermind relationship between you and your spouse. I mean, just this morning before I got on this podcast, I'm considering making a hire. And I don't do anything without talking to Vanessa. I don't make any big moves without talking to Vanessa. And it's not that I want her approval or anything like that, but I value her opinion. And I value the way she thinks about things because it's very different than the way I think about things. And there's a lot of times she'll bring insights um, to things, and she doesn't have a business background, but that doesn't matter. She has a sixth sense that I don't have, and so I leverage that relationship. So I talked about all these different relationships. Obviously, there's relationships, with their peers. There's relationships with your advisors. Like, so I'm technically an advisor or a coach to them, right? And so it's there. What do they get out of that, and how do they leverage that? So that was kind of one of the principles how we related it. One of the other ones was planning. Hill talks a lot about planning and making plans. And one of the most useful resources that I've ever created for the mastermind was the daily planner. And I think I've talked about this before, maybe on this podcast, but every mastermind, they get a booklet that's got, 100 blank sheets in it for them to fill out a plan for their day. And so I went through the different types of plans they need to have. You need a daily plan, and you got to fill that out the night before. So you should not go to sleep without filling out your daily planner. You need a plan for how to have a successful day. You need a weekly plan. What does your week look like? Are you batching your work? A lot of times, and I've struggled with this. It's like a lot of times it's like you go and you do a session, and then you do a consult, and then you do another session, and then you make a phone call to a joint venture. And it's just like you don't get into any groove or rhythm with your work because you haven't thought about how to structure your week in a productive way. Right. So there needs to be a weekly plan. Okay. And then there needs to be an annual plan. Where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want your business to be in a year? How much money do you want to make? How much profit? How many clients do you need to get there? What are the goals that your business has? And so you have to have some kind of a plan. But it's funny. I've been tuning into the Mike Tyson fight. I forgot the guy he's fighting, but
Jake
Mike
Paul.
Tyson. Yeah, Mike Tyson's fighting this guy Jake Paul, and I'm loving the dude. I've never seen Jake Paul fight or anything like that. I never even heard of Jake Paul. So, but I'm watching some videos of Tyson now, dude. Not a shot. Get me away from that guy. No way.
If you're my age, okay, and you grew up with like watching like in the 80s, I remember where
Oh,
it was when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. I was so upset. I was up in Albany. Anyway,
terrifying.
yeah, I mean, we all tuned in to boxing because this guy was knocking everybody out in the first. He was so mean. I swear to God, I was working in Manhattan. I was running a bar in Times Square called the Whiskey, and I heard Tyson was staying at the W. I cannot tell you. This is 2001 or two. I'm so scared. I'm like, please don't let him come in with his group in here. Because what do you do? What can you do? Mike
Oh
Tyson's
my
going,
God.
he's going to beat up.
There's a picture of him at 18 years old and a picture of Jake Paul at 18 years old. Jake Paul looks like this little surfer dude. Now,
Yeah,
Jake Paul kicked my ass, so like I'm not like saying
yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
But and Tyson's neck is like as thick as a tire. It's just like I've never seen a neck like that before. But it's just like it is. He is a terrifying person.
No,
Terrifying.
totally. I don't care how old he is. I'm just working on my sprinting to stay away
Yeah.
from that dude. He's
Oh
nuts.
man,
Yeah, the training. I
that's
Vince,
where I
I did
want
see
my
the training.
inner wimp to be really loud. That says, "Get
Yeah.
away, run away, run away."
Yeah. Do not come out, caveman. Um,
Oh my
the
god,
yeah, the I saw his training too. It looks crazy. Man. Um,
that was a
so
tangent.
planning. I know it
Yeah,
was, but what Tyson is planning for that, what does he want to do in July to Jake Paul? He's got to prepare for
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
What
funny.
one more principle on that, Vince? Let's talk because I want to kind of keep connecting this Napoleon Hill, yeah, mastermind principle, the
Yeah,
planning. What else? One
yeah. The
more.
last one the last one I talked about was imagination and basic thinking stuff, right? And he talks about the difference between creative and synthetic imagination. And creative imagination is what we know as like innovation. And synthetic imagination is probably what we know as creativity. And if you think about it, Steve Jobs, everyone would look at him as an innovator, right? But he didn't invent the phone. He didn't invent the internet, and he didn't invent the camera. What did he do? He put those three things together. So he used synthetic imagination,
Yep.
right? He
Wow.
used synthetic. It
Cool.
wasn't actually innovation. It was taking three things that already existed and putting it into one device, right? And so
Very
that's kind
cool.
of how you think about it. And a lot of people look at, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I'm not innovative, I'm not like that. But at the end of the day, really what it's about is this awareness and looking around at the world unfolding in front of you, looking around at your gym, looking at your clients and seeing and making connections. I mean, that's really what needs to happen. I'm not a super, I wouldn't consider myself an innovative person at all. I don't think I've ever innovated anything, but I'm very, very creative. And a lot of people ask, so I'm in this business group, and, most of these people are running very, very large companies, and they're not doing like the same stuff I'm doing. They're running their companies. They're not doing the marketing like I'm doing. And I told them I've written 12 books. I record a podcast. I write a daily email. And they were flabbergasted how I was able to write a daily email. They're like, well, where do you get the ideas? How could you? I can't even write one email a week. How could you write one email a day? Right. And basically, what they didn't understand is that you basically use this synthetic creativity. You capture something, anything that happens in your day can be something that you write about as long as you can make the connection to your audience. So it's about teaching this synthetic creativity is really powerful, to have as a gym owner. Like, and even when people, as a gym owner, what you should be doing is any type of experience that you have, whether it's in your community, whether you go shopping somewhere, whether your kid is going to play sports, like there should be the thinking process, the wheels should be turning of, all right, how can I take this and bring it back to my business and make my business better? So that's really what it's about. And there was one thing I actually talked about too, with uh, the the head trash, right? And a lot of times we go through experiences and we make them last too long. Meaning we get down about something or we have a failure, and we take too long to get over it and move on, right? And so my son is doing jujitsu, and when you do jujitsu, usually there's multiple matches. And if you lose a match, you have to go and gather yourself and be ready for the next match. And the first time he lost, that he had another match, he was all upset and down and stuff. And I handed him, this is kind of just instinctual, but I handed him a stopwatch. And I started the stopwatch, and I said, the stopwatch was actually on my phone, right? And I handed him, and I pushed start, and the stopwatch is running. And I said, look at that. And I was like, I want you to push stop when you're ready to get over your loss and start thinking about your next match. And like he stared at it, and I think it was like around 26 seconds that he pushed it. And he looked at me with these eyes that an 8-year-old shouldn't look at a father, right? Because they were the eyes of a man. And he goes, I'm ready. And he went out and he won his next match. And
Awesome.
beat a kid who was heavier and likely more experienced. And that was like a thing. It's just like, we're gonna go through shit. We're gonna go through stuff that's hard, but it's just like, all right, how long are you gonna be upset about it? How long are you gonna be down about it? And what I gave everyone in the audience, I gave them all clock timers,
Oh, cool.
circular kitchen clock timers.
Yeah.
And I gave them all one, and I kind of passed them out. And I was like, put this on your desk. And then next time you go through a challenge, and next time you go through, you're down, because it's like nothing moves until you get over that. You're just wallowing in your own pity. and the faster you can get over it. And so the watch and the timer is a symbolic way to be like, all right, I'm good. I'm done. I'm going to give this 30 seconds. I'm going to give this a minute. I'm going to give this 5 minutes. You decide what it's going to be. But once that timer hits, you're done.
Yeah, I love that because I think, especially in this business, we've gone through so much, a normal, every business has. But in terms of, I remember the building had a leak. I was in the basement in my planes, 5 iron. Building had a leak. Where's all the water end up? It ends up in the basement. I lost like the Kaiser,
Oh,
the air generator, like whatever. And at first I was like, I mean, what am I? But then after a couple days, you realize, all right, it's going to dry. And then not a couple days right away, really. But because insurance came in, they were like, don't worry, we're going to take care of this, this, and that. And so the more experience you get with these things, if you handle it, just kind of take a deep breath. Like you said, look at the timer. Hey, get over this. It's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world, but you're going to go through, and then COVID, comes along, and then what could be worse than COVID, or whatever. So there's all of these things that the more you go through them, the more you learn, and not everybody learns from it, but
yeah.
don't get
I
that
happen to
great.
believe a clock timer, a kitchen clock timer, not one on your phone, is the most bang for your buck asset that you can purchase as a business owner. Like it's just like they're $15 or $18 or whatever it is, and you can do what I just said with it, or you can do project work. I've talked about project work before, where we set a timer, you work on one project at a time, you work on that one project distraction free for that amount of time that you set the timer for.
31 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, well,
What?
33 is
Okay.
I think it's Gene Schwartz's
Okay.
thing, but yeah, it's like those two purposes. So I keep mine. I have mine in my backpack. I just keep it there all the time,
Very cool.
right? And
Very
it's just
cool.
anytime I go to do work, I pull the kitchen timer out. I was like, I'm writing this email. I'm going to set 30 minutes. I'm going to finish this email in 30 minutes. Am I 100% perfect on using the clock timer? No, but I do know that the more I do it, the more productive I get, the better work I do, the more focused I am, and the happier I am. So
And you
a,
and you
a
start
clock timer is a very valuable thing.
you also, kind of going back to some of this idea about awareness of the inner voices, or once you start using that for a while, and all right, let's say you don't have the clock timer with you, it's still in your head, like, I have to get over this. That awareness is such a great reminder for us to just be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I am gonna, this too shall pass, right? I mean, I'm gonna get over this. So
Yeah.
love it.
So
Awesome.
um,
So give us just a wrap up. Like, all right. So what was how did you finalize? How did you wrap
yeah.
this up?
So
Because
we
there's a lot of
always
stuff going on.
we always wrap it up with the last session of the day is all about clarity because we kind of dump a lot of stuff on them throughout the weekend,
Yeah.
and so I want them to leave with clarity. And I this is my formula for clarity. I believe that they need to know and embrace reality with where their business is right now. They need to know and have data around how much money they're making. They need to know and have data around how much profit is being had from that. They need to understand and know how much what their payroll is relative to revenue. They need to have grasp on their leads and trials, contracts, all stuff we've talked about, right? So I think part one of clarity is embracing reality. Where are you right now? And embracing the things that are holding you back, the obstacles that are holding you back. Okay, that's part one. Part two of clarity is defining where you want to go. And typically, what I do is I work with them in this accord in a 12-month increment. So I want them to know where do you want your business to be in 12 months? Because if they don't know what their business where they want their business to be in 12 months, then they're definitely not going to know where they want it to be in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So I start with, and if it's a bonus if they know beyond a year, it's a bonus. They should, it's a bonus. Most people don't. But I was like, you have to do this. At least your vision needs to be at least 1 year. So you got to know, you have to have some type of a destination to know where you're going. So we have them define that part of it. All right, how much money do you want to make this year? What is your profit going to be? How many clients do you need to make that happen? What are the goals you need to set for your business? Right. And so we define that. That's the second piece of clarity. And the third piece of clarity is what is most important right now. So what do they need to focus on now? And typically we run them through an exercise called rock setting, where they would pick the 5 to 7 different things that they need to focus on at that point right now. They decide that at the meeting, and then they move forward and go back and take action on those things.
Damn.
So that's kind of how
Again.
we good.
Damn it.
I hear you. You just face is frozen.
All right. You're back. Hold on one second. Can you just can you repeat what you need to focus on now?
Yeah. And the last piece is what they need to focus on right now. The question is what's most important right now, because we dump a lot of stuff on them throughout the meeting. They got to condense all that and be like, all right, what do I actually need to work on right now? Some of this stuff is good, but some of the stuff is more actionable down the road. And so we have them leave with the 5 things that they're going to focus on over the next quarter, and decide that. And so they leave like, all right, where are we? Where am I? They leave with, where am I going? And they leave with, what do I need to focus on right now? And then they feel really good, walking out of there, because there's some clarity around that. And we do it together, right? So they get into groups and they tell each other what they're going to do and stuff like that. So it's more of a group, there's energy, from the exercise in the group. So yeah, it's fun. They're really great. I love these meetings, and the benefit, I mean, I'm like, selfishly, I get so much value because I get to teach this stuff, and I learn so much when I have to teach. So I taught for throughout the 2 days, like for 12 hours. Right. And so it's just like, I got a lot to do. But I mean, the amount of prep that went into it, and the amount of reading I had to do, and the amount of listening I had to do to get ready and to find ways to condense it. And it's weird. So the turbulence thing came to me. This is actually a funny story. So the turbulence, I'm constantly thinking about it, right? I'm constantly thinking about, all right, how do I take all this stuff and condense it down to memorable things that they can take and carry with them? Because memorable is portable. I can't just dump a bunch of information on it. I got to find ways that they can remember it. And I'm running every Sunday. I run to my mom's house. It's 4.3 miles. Okay. And I try to break my time every time. Every time I try to go a little bit faster, even if it's just 2 seconds, just a little bit faster. Right? So that's my Sunday thing. And I'm running and I'm listening to Pink, because I love Pink, because Vanessa loves Pink. Right. And a song comes on that Pink sings called Turbulence. And I'm just like, holy shit. And it just came to me, and it linked the whole thing together. This was like 5 days before the Mastermind. It just
cool.
came to me, right? But that is using what? Synthetic imagination, right?
There you go.
Right? It's like, it's all works, together. But that's how I got the whole. I didn't read Turbulence anywhere. I didn't read about that. I just got it from the song, and then that was the. So it's important that when we teach this stuff to the guys in the group, that we can teach it in a way that they can carry it with them, because otherwise that's when everything fades. Right? You hear people going to seminars, and it's like, yeah, I went to seminar, I was excited for 2 days, and then all of a sudden it faded away, because there was nothing that was given them that stuck that they could remember. They will remember Turbulence forever. Right? They will remember Turbulence forever, because every time they get on a plane, they'll think about that speech.
Yeah, I love that you kind of, what's the action steps? And I love that you go over it with the group, because they're going to see that group in July again. They're going to see those people, and they're going to have to be like, not answer to them, but hey, Vince, you said you were going to go and do A, B, and C. How'd that go? Right? You know what I mean? And so I love that accountability within the groups, within the big group, within, kind of the teachers and instructors that you have. It's pretty cool.
Yep. So I know you're going to come to the next meeting. I got you down. I already have you on the guest list.
Nice.
I recorded about a 15-minute video that describes the Mastermind, where I kind of talk through it. And if anyone listening to this is interested in kind of like what we do in the group and what you get, stuff like that, I'll send you this link, but it's just vincegabriel.com/SPF-mastermind. We'll put the link in the show notes, but vincegabriel.com/SPF-mastermind. And that has a video where I kind of unpack everything. So if anyone kind of is listens to this today and they were like, oh, I need to get into a group like this. I need people around me like this that, I want to learn this type of stuff. I want to be around other successful people. We have guest passes that you can purchase to come to our next meeting in July. And so just you can apply through the link that I just said, and hopefully we'll see someone that listened to this podcast that it resonated at our July meeting in New Jersey. But I know you're going to be there. So I'm holding
Very
you to
cool.
that.
I'm planning on going. I really am. Jersey, man. I'm close to New York, and I could take a quick ride down there if I have to, or a flight is easy. So Berkeley, the lovely Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. It is beautiful there. Got a big, very successful Lifetime that you compete with there too. So, I know you got to keep on your toes.
Very good. Very good.
All right, Vince. Thanks for doing this, brother, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Ant.